Hi, and thank you for joining me for another video. Today, my friends, I have a special treat for you. I have Randy over here from Miami, from Fort Lauderdale, really. And today he's going to share his story with you to in some way contribute to give back to the Torah community, perhaps increase the Torah community with his story. Maybe you guys could relate to it. Without further ado, my homeboy Randy.
So I just want to say before I start sharing the story with everyone, I don't seek to offend anybody. I'm not the proselytizing guy. I'm just trying to figure this out as I go.
Yeah, it's me.
So if any way I offend anybody, I apologize. I don't seek to do this. Just sharing my life story and what I believe the truth is as I understand it. So where do we start?
Anyways, well, let's give you like a little idea of where we're at. All right, we're in Fort Lauderdale. We're on A1A, right? The beach is to the left of us, so we're in paradise here, right? So I mean, feel free to kind of glance to the left, to the right. Right? If you see any women in bikinis, it's not us.
It's not us.
It's
not at all.
You gotta blame God.
Think that way.
All right. Okay.
So.
But let's start this talk by cutting to the chase. Okay. In 2 minutes, tell the audience where you were 1 year ago and where you are right now.
So a year ago, I was a messianic follower. I wouldn't consider myself a messianic Jew at that time. Didn't make any conversion to messianism or anything. But I was non-Trinitarian. For I would say the last 2 years, I was kind of a monotheist. Only I saw JC as my rock, and I hold the New Testament to be the Word of God back then. Now I'm seeking conversion as in Orthodox Judaism.
Torah Jew,
yeah. Basically, and trying to live out commandments as best as I can.
Look how dope it is. See the water? It's good in case we get beat down by cops. Or like, sir, can I have your I'll give you this. I'll give you Judaism.
So what else you want to know?
All right, so you told us where you came from and where you are now, right? I mean, just in case, someone exits early. Now, start from the beginning, Bubba.
So, for me, my quest of searching for truth started when I was about 8 years old. I come from a rather large family, and believe it or not, from when I was born until I was 8, I don't recall any major conflicts in my family. And what happened was, my parents were going through a few arguments, and I was pretty much told either by my sister or my mother, I can't remember who at the time, to pray. Maybe for a sense to calm me down psychologically, but not necessarily for me to connect with God in any way. At least that's the way I remember it. Maybe they were seeking that, but I don't really think so as young as I was. And I did. I prayed to God to save my parents' marriage, and He did, but not as quick as I thought it was going to happen. So later that summer, I wind up in Dominican Republic because my parents went through a brief separation, and what happens is my family in Dominican Republic are very religious Catholic. My grandmother is a devout Catholic, so right the second I get over there, I get put in Catholic school right away.
Wait. So, like, DR is mostly Protestant right now or Catholic? I mean, the average Dominican.
The Protestants are gaining traction over there. Even some of the messianic Jews a little bit are getting big, but mostly Catholic. As is most of Latin America.
All right, so you grew up Catholic. You were born, you were baptized a Catholic?
Yes, I was baptized when I was 8. Catholic
church?
No. I did every sacrament though. I did confession. I did my first communion. I did confirmation, and I was a devout Catholic. I would say.
But no molestation. All right.
With no minus molestation. So I was a devout Catholic until I was maybe the age of I want to say 23, 24. Basically, I was seeking God in the Catholic Church at that point, but not really finding what I was looking for. But that all calmed down until the point I was going through a divorce. During my divorce, so basically what happened was, I remember being in a room and realizing to myself that I read so much crap in my life, so much self-help stuff, and so much philosophy and things like that, that I never actually read a religious book. I never read the Bible or anything like that. So that night, I decided to go and read the entire Gospel of Matthew. And what that made me realize is that the moral standards I had for myself were no good. They were very low. So since I seek to be a moral person and come from a family who always taught me to aspire to that, I decided to make some changes in my life, and I thought religion will offer that to me. So I went to my Catholic priest, but didn't seek what I was looking for. And the person I saw in JC,
You didn't find what you're looking for.
I didn't find it in that place. So on Wednesday, what happens is I go to this to my friend's house. We were making music at the time. I was had a hobby of making hip hop music, and a friend of mine goes over there. Another friend, a friend of his, which later became my friend, and the guy's a evangelical Christian, and he's sharing all his testimony with us. And I was kind of shocked by it, and I was like, you know what? I wanna look into what you're talking about. I don't know if I'll go as far as changing my religion, but I kind of wanted to experiment at that point. So at that point, I go later that night to his congregation. I meet with his pastor. His pastor was a very charismatic fellow. He was a lawyer by trade. And he was very big into that whole morality thing that I was looking to. So basically what ended up happening is I started going to that congregation, and for 2 years I attended that congregation. And during those 2 years I was unemployed for a little while. So I read the entire Christian Bible cover to cover, maybe 1.5 times in 8 months. And I got very scholarly, and I started learning about Christian theology, history of the church, doctrine, Christian doctrine, and things like that. And I started getting into a little trouble in that place because, incredibly, they said I was turning into the perfect devil of somebody who knows the Bible left and front, but they felt I wasn't living it. But I think I was living it. I think the whole thing is that they were rather dogmatic and weren't very understanding of the things that they believed at that point. But so I decided. So along the time, we started a men's group. They had circles of men's groups, and basically there was the men's group that I winded up in is with this guy who was and we were going to study the book of Daniel because of his piety, and we were going to attempt to be like Daniel in our everyday life. And I was really big into what I would call then the Old Testament, at the time, and so the book of Daniel was something very, very, very influential in my life. So this guy is like chewing to this book terribly. Like this guy had no critical reading ability, never studied any of the Christian apologies towards the book of Daniel or anything. And I was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I feel horrible. So what winds up happening is I make a decision to stay because I feel that maybe God was putting that in my life so I could be humbled and not feel like a smart boy through it all. So it gets to the point where I stood there for a while, and every day I would go, I'll feel worse, and I would just feel like drained after that class. So I'm like, you know what? I give up. I found a stupid excuse, and I stopped going to that church. It's kind of cultish. You know, if you stop going there, they will look for you. They'll spread rumors. You know, you get black flagged. So I made a dumb excuse of some sort, and I left that place. And at the time I left this place, my mom was an evangelical Christian, and basically she invited me to her church. And her church was pretty cool. It was rather larger. But now I had a problem because these people were even less scholarly than the other people that I used to go to. And these people weren't even moral. So it was like terrible. You know what I mean? This was a circus act. So I mean, I don't mean that to criticize anybody's church, but this was the experience I personally had as I saw it. So I decided at that point, I'm not gonna be religious. I give up, you know, and I'm just gonna live a secular life, whatever. But you know, as many of you who probably went down this path understand that that's pretty hard for somebody who've had some type of spiritual experience. So I was always interested in the Hebrew roots movement. I didn't know that any of these movements existed around my house, and I was just, you know, just going about my life. I started dating this girl, beautiful person. I'm not dating her anymore, and basically I kind of hid the fact that I was religious, and I packaged my my whole religious experience into something like universal. You know, I could just turn it into like kind of my personality. But after a few months, it started making me feel sick to my stomach that, you know, I couldn't live out my any type of faith. So I gave up, and I just had one last prayer to God, and I told God, if you want me, come get me, because I'm giving up. I have searched and I've looked, and I can't find anything. So the guy who takes me originally to the Christian church, he winds up calling me, sending me a text message on the day after Thanksgiving, and he says, hey, you might, hey, grab this number of this person that's gonna take you to a messianic synagogue. I was like, what? I was ridiculously excited to do this because, you know, I was interested and curious about the Hebrew roots movement thing, and you know, I just saw like something very scholarly I could do, and I went there, and it was pretty cool. Right away I felt like a small fish in a big pond. You know, everybody knew more than I did, so that was pretty cool. People lived very pious lives, which I aspired to live, so that was really cool. And I stood there for about 2 years, and I thought that this was the place I was gonna stay there for the rest of my life. I was very happy. These are beautiful people. Many of them I get along with till today. But one day, something very funny happened. They also helped me get rid of my Trinitarian views. But one day something very funny happened. I get invited to this Shabbat dinner with a group of people. It was right after Pesach, right? No, I'm lying. It was after Purim. And basically it was the Shabbat after Purim. So basically what's happening is that we're this group of messianics. And it's funny because there was a bunch of undercover messianics who probably live in some of your Jewish synagogue, Jewish communities. It's funny, they're messianics, but they live in Orthodox communities covertly.
That's it.
You know, and it's sad they do that, but you know, they never were mean to me. So I'm there, and let's just say I wind up in a conversation with somebody's wife there, and I figure out, she tells me that she does not accept JC as her Messiah, that she was born and raised, you know, pretty much Jewish. So I was just shocked by this, because I know she's in a place where she could be influenced with all this apologies for JC, and I know she wasn't the most religious person in the world, as far as maybe the way she lived her life, she was religious, but not her understanding. She didn't have the greatest understanding of theology. So I'm like, what? How come this girl can't get convinced? So I start fishing a conversation, and we start this conversation, and she looks at me dead in the face, and she asks me, what are you doing? And I'm like, and instead of me rebuttaling her question with some type of apology, I'm asking myself the question, what am I doing? And she's like, if you love Judaism, if you love the sages, if you love keeping Torah, then why do you want to change all of it? And I was like, I was like, why am I doing this? I didn't have a theological reason why to leave Messianic Judaism at the moment, but I had a very big personal question to ask myself, as far as how did I want to live my life ultimately. If I wanted to be a covert Messianic, or if I wanted to come into the fullness of Torah. And verses, believe it or not, from the New Testament came up to my head. And one of the verses that came up to my head is the verse from Paul where he says that the New Testament believers will provoke the original Jews to jealousies, and they will join. But here clearly you have a bunch of messianics keeping rabbinic law, wearing kippahs, living in Jewish communities, and actually them envying to the point.
Yeah, but not getting cheese on their hamburger at McDonald's.
Yes, not getting cheese on the hamburger at McDonald's. That's very important. Don't do it, because you're a Jew. Don't do that. Right. You can get the beef, but not the cheese. Yeah.
You know, don't put no cheese on it, because I'm an Orthodox Jew.
Don't do it.
I love McDonald's. Gonna have.
Yes.
Are you guys giving out the Torah to have a meal?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Unless the toy is like dedicated to a deity, then I don't want it.
Right. It's not like a little idol.
No, I don't want a little idol. So, so I'm like, am I, you know, what type of life am I living? So, at the time, I already had heard Asher Meza, but I've never tried to contact him. But so I was like, nah, he's probably super ridiculously busy. I'm not gonna try to contact him, and you know, because Asher is the type of person who he'll give you the halacha beyond his own interest or his own agenda or anything. But so I started doing some research on the internet. I go and I stumble into Tuvia Singer, and he starts showing me about the Council of Nicaea, that wasn't only where the Trinity was decided, but around the same time is when they put together their canon of the Bible. And I realized that Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John did not actually write those books. That's a Catholic tradition. And my mind was blown. I'm like, oh my God. I'm following a Catholic tradition even as a Messianic believer? So that was mind-blowing to me. So at that point, I had to call Asher, and I called him and I told him, I mean, secretly, because this is a big no-no to ever reach out to an Orthodox person as a Messianic believer. So reached out to Asher to see if he could convince me or not convince me. So, we had a long conversation that night, and it really went nowhere in terms of me making an ultimate decision. But it definitely lowered my view of the New Testament and my value of JC of my life. He went from being my Messiah to kind of just being my Rebbe. So whatever. We established this friendship, and I keep researching. And around this time comes the time of Pesach, the Passover, and I'm thinking in my head, the tradition, the Jewish understanding that the blood of the lamb was a deity for the Egyptians, and you kind of had to diss the Egyptians by putting their deity on your wall, killing it and eating it, and watching, and kind of trusting that Hashem is gonna somehow redeem you out of that, bring you out of that, and it was completely different from the messianic Christian view, which is that the actual lamb was the sacrifice that needed to be made for them to go out. But it set into me in my head the Jewish understanding of it being the deity, and I'm thinking, if the Exodus of Egypt was happening right now, and God was calling all his people out of a nation, what would it look like today? And I'm thinking in my head, because it's funny, because Pesach falls around the same time. It falls around the same time of the Christian holiday of Easter and Resurrection Sunday and all that stuff. It should fall in the exact same days, but it doesn't because of they don't follow the Jewish calendar. And I'm thinking, what would God have his people do? Wouldn't he have us the mainstream religion as a small group of people and believe that God will have our back? And it kind of hit me as that week. And as I'm driving on Pesach to the Pesach celebration, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm just like, I just felt like it was just a regular dinner, which I should have been celebrating anyways because I'm not circumcised.
Well, you can celebrate, you just can't eat from the lamb.
But whatever. I mean, I should. They didn't even have lamb there, which is pretty cool. So then that's pretty much what brought me here. So right after that, I contacted Asher, and I said, let's go full throttle. Let's walk me through it.
He says Asher, so the thuggish music has to come out.
You killed it with the
Hey, alright, go for it. No, don't stop, man.
No, all right.
Don't stop.
So let's try to start it again. Let's try to make a more condensed version of that.
Get the heck out of here.
Keep
going. It's still recording. All this is going there.
But you're gonna edit all of it, obviously.
Edit what? It's perfect. It's good, right?
No, it's not good. They can't hear you yet.
It's recording. It's good. Yeah, this is
So I have a question.
This is Gun Team Platinum.
Let's talk about your friends,
Who's that?
the Hebrew Israelites.
Oh man, you trying to corner me here? Yeah, we got guns and stuff. I'm telling you, you gotta let these people know. I wasn't born Jewish. This cat can cut.
So I'm gonna stop.
No, don't stop it. All right, so. I hope you enjoyed my brother Randy's testimony. I hope it was guideful, God willing, he'll be making more videos, and I think that he's an asset to the Jewish people. And if any of you guys like what you see, you guys can do it on your own too. You know, tell people what brought you out of whatever religion you were into Torah Judaism. All right, I mean, this is how we spread the word. Proselytizing, yeah, we do that. Anyways, for more information about everything Jewish, please visit bejewish.org. Bye bye.